Welcome everyone, and thank you, Sri Guru, for taking the time to speak with us. This is something that we've been, wanting to do for a long time. Getting him to Delhi and speaking with all of us. Uh, Most of you might have followed his posts on Facebook, and it's a, it's a matter of joy to be speaking with him today directly. This was the first time that we met, but honestly, personally for me, it was like as if I know him from before. So. Rahul has already given a bit of background about Sri Guru and the Arya Yoga Sangha. Before we begin with the questions that we've received from uh, all over the world, we would like if you could, just say something about what the organization is about and what you do in that. What are the stated objectives?
Okay. The Arya Yoga Sangha is my spiritual organization. It is primarily a meditation and Kundalini based organization. It's not an organization, it's just a designation so that the people who do the practice and who follow me, who are my disciples, my students, we have a central place. It's a Sangha, that's all. There is no ashram, there is no building, but it's essentially a Kriya and meditation process. So that's my main job. What I do on Facebook and all that is my way of relaxing. That's letting off steam. Sometimes that seems to scald people. I wish I could apologize for that, but I won't. So that's all right. So yeah, that's what I do. This is what I do. I have done many things in life. I've been a journalist. I've been a corporate trainer for 2 decades. Yeah, I know the switch is rather strange. And now I'm only doing Gurugiri, so
I remember once you mentioned somewhere in our conversation that you you were connected with the sort of the parampara of Sri Aurobindo.
well, see, I'm not formally part of the Aurobindo ashram or the Auroville or things like that, but most of what I do and how I teach and where I feel my power comes from is from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. So in that sense, yes, I am a devotee or a follower of Aurobindo and the Mother, but I'm not a formal Aurobindonian that way. May Nataraja be praised for that.
Right. So we'll come to the questions that we've received. Uh, so just to give a bit of background about how we've arranged the questions, these are categorized into 4 categories. Uh, One is the very theme of the session today being Hindu. So it's about identity. How do we define what Hindu is? Given that it's such a kaleidoscopic sort of culture that we inherit, it's always a challenge to pin down and place your finger on what exactly it means to be a Hindu. Then we are also talking about the nitty gritties of the religion, the common questions that people have, and I hope we have time for everything. Then we'll talk about comparative religion in the sense how are we different from the rest of the religions, uh, principally Christianity and Islam. Because personally, I think that it's easier to define us by defining how we are different rather than to say that this is the uniform, set of beliefs that we follow. And finally, the most interesting part is, of course, to do with sadhana and where Sri Guru has some awesome insights to offer. So I'll start with a question by a common friend, Nitin, where he says, what does it really mean to be a Hindu? What is the core of Hindu life? And the context of this question is that today we see a lot of people who are only Hindu in name, and at best their political views may align with so-called right-wing politics or Hindutva politics. So can all of these people really be considered Hindu, and what does it really mean for a person to be Hindu?
So it's like asking, here is the ocean, now please scoop it into a bottle and give it to me. But the first thing, that do you have to be a practicing religious minded or spiritual minded person to be a Hindu? I don't think so. Hinduism can as much be a psychology, a culture, a legacy, an inheritance. I mean, one of the best Hindus I know is Dr. Somashekar, and he's a real genius level pediatrician type of person, and he calls himself an atheist, but he's very committed to the dharma, he's very committed to the culture, the legacy, the inheritance, what this land has produced. Rather, like Professor Gatz said, is an atheist Jew, like culturally he's a Jew, he might not believe in the divine. So, in terms of what is a Hindu, that is a very difficult question, but we have to grapple with it, both collectively, individually, at an institutional level. We have to grapple with it because it's a word that was given to us, it's a label that was given to us. We didn't have any word to describe ourselves per se. We had a word dharma, and we follow the dharma. That also is a complex story. But today, for better or for worse, that is our identity. So we have to deal with it. It's because we don't have a church or a hierarchy or a theology that it becomes so difficult. Because otherwise, you can say, yeah, all right, you fit the parameters, you don't fit the parameters. We are extremely widespread, but that doesn't mean that Hindu means anything goes. Unfortunately, there is a tendency today where to be Hindu means that you can pull out your own religion from whole cloth. No. I suppose what we really need is a set of common parameters or a set of common beliefs, a set of non-negotiables. So I'm offering tentative answer because I do not claim to be Sarvagyani or anything like that. But I'm offering a tentative answer that the notion of karma and its action is something very unique that has come from this land, and the whole notion of how karma operates, that is one thing that if you're a Hindu, you believe in. The notion of dharma with all its wonderful nuances, the entire Mahabharata is about dharma. If you believe in karma, then you also believe in rebirth, multiple lifetimes, things like that, and then fundamentally our culture was always a culture of mukti, of liberation. Everything, our practices, our cultural norms, our festivals, whatever we would practice, was geared at liberating. So mukti is different from going to heaven or going to hell or something like that. That karmic action exists and the karmic action can be brought to an end. And then you can be free of the entire cycle of suffering. That's a dharmic notion which then extended to Buddhism, to Jainism, to Sikhism. These are the dharmic religions because they share this. They share this. Now about gods, systems of worship, it doesn't really matter what god, what system of worship, so long as you understand these things. Karma is the law of the universe and mukti is possible. So in that sense, I would say a Hindu is anybody who believes these things. Now you can also say, yeah, but the others don't believe it. They don't believe in gods. All right. So you're not a practicing Hindu, or you're not, again, like I said, you might say, okay, but I don't believe that there is rebirth. I don't believe, but nevertheless, I think that there is an entire culture, there is an entire legacy, there's an aesthetic legacy, there's a psychological legacy, there's a spiritual legacy, there's a cultural legacy, and I think that is valuable and worth preserving. There is a way of living, there is a way of life that is worth preserving. Then also you're a Hindu. But in the end, I suppose you should be a practicing Hindu. It's better to be a practicing Hindu than to sort of stay out. Now I'm tentative about answering this because I don't want to create a church or a cult. I don't want to create these are the 10 non-negotiables. Now, if you look, somebody like Rajiv Malhotra has dealt with this question extensively. Please read his books, especially Being Different, where he explains very clearly this is our zone, and this is the zone of the other. But I would encourage all of you to ask yourself that question. Right, I'm a Hindu. What does that mean? Most of us, we are like fish in the water. We never know that this is water, So you need to ask yourself that question. What does it mean that I'm a Hindu? What do I believe in? What do I stand for? What do I reject? What is my practice? What is my belief in the divine? What is my relationship with the divine? What is my relationship with the world? How do I utilize the resources of the world? All of these are very vital questions. And then I would be very happy if everybody could come up with an individual answer. I do not want one standard format for everybody that, okay, this is it, and now you have to buy into it, and those who do not are heretics. I wouldn't want that either. But I think once we accept karma and once we accept mukti, then yeah, we have a certain common ground. Swami Vivekananda had an answer that if people have sectarian difficulties, at least we can all agree around the importance of the symbol of Om. And over there in Dakshineshwar, they've actually created a little shrine with just the Om symbol in it. And he said, if you cannot accept the Om, then I'm afraid you're not a Hindu. Leave. So, I mean, it's that price of admittance is very simple, is cheap. You don't have too many things to take on board. To the rest, I'm afraid it's a real complicated answer. We need to seriously engage. I think other than Hindol Sengupta, nobody has really written a book on being Hindu. Like we need to seriously engage with
think
that.
there is a book by Conrad Elst as well.
Correct. Why there are many books. Why I'm a Hindu. Why I became a Hindu. Why I'm thinking of becoming a Hindu. Why I might become a Hindu. All those kind of things. Well, when you cannot distinguish between Mahavira and Buddha by sight, I have very much. I have a great deal of concern as to what that is. How much of it is real and how much of it was opening the index and looking. Okay, concepts, theories, reformers, and then putting it all together. So we are not talking about simulacrums. We are not talking about imitations. We are talking about authentic answers. And one thing I must say, I mean, we give insane amounts of freedom to the average person. Yeah? Not in our social life. In our social life, we are very tyrannical and rigid. Family. The word family is like a big sentimental lump in the throat, and it cuts off blood flow to the brain. But in your individual spiritual path, there's pure anarchy. Like do whatever you want, because the results count. If they can see that you're manifestly a different human being at the end of your process, that process is accepted. It might be called not orthodox, not according to text, but it is accepted. And we don't have the notion of a heretic, you see. Though we are trying to create that now. But we don't have the notion of a heretic. That's a big thing. We don't have the notion of apostasy. We don't have the notion of heresy. Or blasphemy. We even have nindastuti, where you praise by abusing. Yeah, so it's like, come on, yeah, more easy than this. What do you want? You can essentially create your own religion, and nobody is going to stop you.
In that sense, I think when they write that, even Rajiv Malhotra writes, and some other people have also written about Hinduism being an open source sort of architecture. So
correct,
I think
absolutely,
that's what you're saying.
Absolutely. He has written much better than me about this. He's really thought about it, done sadhana on it. Please read his books. But I'm just saying that don't just leave it at, don't, all respect to him, but it must be your answer. It must not be Rajivji's answer. What is your notion of being a Hindu? It should not be Malhotra's notion of being a Hindu. That's a good place to start, to trigger your own self-inquiry. We are the land of Atma Vichara. Let's practice it sometimes, occasionally, once in a while. Or is it only when we visit the Ramana Ashram? Daily life ke liye nahi, pilgrimage ke liye.
So in that sense, would it be right to say that if we were to take the approach of Neti Neti,
yeah,
and say that this is not what being Hindu is, and this is not.
That has always been the traditional path. No? The highest Advaitic Vedantic path has always been Naiti Naiti, not this, not this, not this. So it requires, but I am saying just at a fundamental level, get your own parameters clear. Who am I? What do I stand for? What do I believe in? What are my gods? What is worth living for? What is worth dying for? Nothing is worth dying for. Many things are worth dying for.
So, this point about dying for something
Hmm.
immediately takes me to the next question,
Hmm.
which is about, again, the difference between, let's say, between Islam, Christianity, and between Hinduism.
Hmm.
And one of the most important differences, which has had a huge bearing on how these religions have the course of their history and how they've interacted with each other,
Hmm.
is the fact that the other two are missionary religions and actively propagate their, whatever you call it, value system or their way of life,
Hmm.
while we've not been aggressive at all.
Who's stopping us?
Yeah, so that is the question. So if Hinduism starts, and I don't know who's written it, this is an anonymous question. So if Hinduism starts to become missionary, then what is the difference left between Islam and itself, or Christianity and itself?
Well, this
Wouldn't
how
we be?
absurd a question is that?
Yeah.
Because are you propagating the same theology? What are you saying? That you're going to define yourself that if somebody does something, then therefore and because of that, I will not do the same? Then your entire agency is defined by the other outside person, no? What is your own free choice? I do believe, yes, that we should actually go on to a mission of propagation of our religion. I think so. Should tell people. But first of all, we need to know ourselves why. See, I'll give you a very interesting example. This happened in January this year. I was in Bangalore to meet somebody, and I was doing some spiritual shoot with that person. And he's a very successful person. He's a businessman, hugely successful, married. His wife has got her own classical dance school, everything. So well settled in life, successful in life, well integrated in life. And he was asking me this question, that why is it so easy to convert Hindus to other? And I said, okay, in your life, have you ever heard anybody in your family tell you this is why you should be Hindu, or this is the value of being Hindu, or this is what makes the Hindu different from anybody else? Have you ever heard that? And he reacted as if I had stabbed him with a spear or something, because the sheer what do we call, the unexpectedness of that answer, because he expected me to say things like, you know they pay money or they manipulate or something like that. And I said, you do not know who you are, you do not know what you stand for, you do not know your values. So when you're faced with somebody who's aggressively promoting his value system, since yours are all amorphous, you think, okay, here's some certainty, and we can now grasp that certainty. I said, why do you not have that conversation with your children? Especially in the more affluent sections of our society, we'll take our children on European holidays and we drag them to every museum there because their mind should expand. But we won't take them to the temple, because the children get bored. And as somebody, a superintendent of police, met me just a few days back, and he said, Guruji, yes, I agree with you, but अगर मैं मंदिर ले जाऊँ तो मैं बताऊंगा क्या उनको? I don't know anything. And I'm like, you're smart enough to pass the IPS, but you're not smart enough to learn about temples. You cannot learn enough to communicate to a child. I agree, his point is also valid. एक मंदिर में जाओगे तो can you just by standing at the door of the temple and looking at the sculptures say, okay, what kind of practice, what kind of procedures were used to establish this place, people in what kind of sadhana should come there? It's all clued in. Everything is there right on the sculptures by the door. Everything you need to know, what can I learn from this place, what can I gain from this place, is right over there in the door of the temple. He's right. And then when you look at the sculptures, most of the people don't know what it is, what does it symbolize, what is the process behind it, what is the yogic thing behind it. You're correct. So it's a hard road. We have selected to become socially successful, and generation by generation we are moving further and further and further away from our inheritance, our legacy. I mean, why would you feel cooler about going trekking on the glacier in Iceland? That's like a big thing. I went trekking in the glacier in Iceland. But when I'm faced with my own temple, I am an illiterate. I do not understand anything about it. Recently in Karnataka, a group of Shettis got together and they wanted to recreate a Hoysala temple. And you know what happened? In stone. So they have the money, over 300 crores. There is nobody with the skill to build a temple in stone in the traditional Hoysala architecture. So they had to find an American professor. And that American professor is designing and telling them, okay, now this is how you fit the stone. This is how the load will be borne. Now we have made it impossible for people who have that knowledge to eat. They cannot survive. So, if you cannot survive with your knowledge, if being an expert in your culture cannot provide you with basic standard of living, forget high standard of living, then you cannot fault people for choosing survival. No? Now that professor is in ecstasy because, he specializes in Hoysala period and he's getting to design an actual temple. और किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कि we have to go and get an American to design a temple for us. Now, are the people to be blamed for that? I don't know. I can see both sides of the argument. ठीक है, मैं हॉयसाला टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर में आई विल बिकम एन एक्सपर्ट, फिर मैं खाऊंगा क्या? और अगर मैं ठीक है मैं घास खा के जी लूंगा, बीबी बच्चे क्या खाएंगे? बट does it not, it humiliated me. I am very frankly saying that it humiliated me. It humiliated me that this is what we have come to. We have the money, we have the willingness, we have everything. We no longer have the kala, we no longer have the skill, we no longer have the sliss tattva, as it was called, effortless performance of action. That's by Abhinava Gupta, by the way. Sliss tattva. So it's a long road. It's a long road. At least now people are waking up and people are realizing, okay, this is not acceptable. Now, once I asked a group of metallurgical engineers, you've seen the Qutub Minar thing, that iron pillar by the Qutub Minar? It doesn't rust, yes? I said, okay, so that's pretty ancient, 1500 years old. What about your modern technological achievements? You cannot reproduce that. Does it not bother you? Does it not bother you that the metallurgical skill of people 1500 years back is more than yours? No, it doesn't bother me. अपने को क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Like फर्क पड़ना चाहिए ना. By the way, it's something to do with the depth of the thing in the ground. You have to take that iron pillar and reach it to a certain point in the ground, then it doesn't rust. There's a similar thing in Kerala, but it is not so elaborate. It's just an iron pillar, it doesn't rust either. And for some reason they had to dig it out, and they discovered that it goes down to a certain degree in the earth, about 4 times what is above, that much is below. Then it doesn't rust. Now, I am not a scientist, I don't understand all that. But basically that is the deal. And similarly, this one also apparently goes very, very deep down. But the fact of the matter is, we are faced with a challenge like this, and it has never occurred to anybody, how the hell? And when can we replicate it? And then we are told that our ancestors were backward. They could make iron that didn't rust. Who's the backward person?
So,
and we can't make our own temples anymore. Americans को hire करना पड़ता है. वहाँ एक मैकडोनल्ड स्टैंड जरूर बनेगा outside the temple.
So the apathy that you mentioned, while it is deplorable and shameful,
I don't know if it's apathy. Maybe it's just the life circumstance.
Yeah. So I was coming to that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a part of the reason is that the traditional structure of society is so broken down that the communities who were the safeguard, I mean, with whom the knowledge was safeguarded, they are no longer in those professions, and which further links with the fact that our temples have the very ecosystem of the temples has broken down,
Oh boy.
and the fact that we don't even control our own funds.
We don't have our community funds.
Yeah,
Our community funds are no longer in our control. Correct.
So I mean, the damage is so widespread that it's difficult to say where to exactly begin. But a start has to be made somewhere, and I think in that sense, would you say that getting the control of the temples back would be the
That is the single most important issue in front of the Hindu community today. And the massive ill treatment of the people who do the pujas. There's a temple in Tamil Nadu. Just recently, I discovered Kanchipuram Kailasanathar is famous, but there is another Kailasanathar. And today, in 2018, the monthly salary of the priest is 215 rupees a month. This is no longer a joke. And then we blame the priest for being greedy. What are you supposed to do on 215 rupees a month? And all the crores and crores that pour in now, because the community does not have control of the temple funds, the rich temples cannot support the poor temples. So yes, it's one of the major, freeing the temple, there's a whole movement behind it. You are working very hard with it. That's one of the major things. Because the money does not come, and somebody's filed a case in the Madurai High Court, one of the pujaris, and he's asking only for 12,000 rupees a month. Saying, at least give us 12,000 rupees a month. That's like drinks bill when people go out for dinner. Right? Now you have, if it was in any other country, each one of those temples would become the core for tourism. it would become one. But because we have so many of these magnificent structures, किसी को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. और 215 रुपया एक महीना मासिक वेतन. इस देश पे कहर टूटता नहीं है is the greatest wonder. That is the proof that there is grace of God in this country.
So one of the symptoms that we see of this breakdown of society and in the way that we are organized now was described by Sri Aurobindo in The Decline of Thought Power. Right. And so there's a related question by Vamsi Juluri, and he asks that you're one of the few voices today embodying an appreciation of language as a medium. Not for some mundane transmission of information, but as a form of power in itself.
Yeah.
You write simply put with mastery, ferocity, and insight.
Wow.
Can this awareness be taught somehow? And how much is Hindu political apathy today related to a failure to communicate?
Can it be taught? I don't know that if people are essentially pussycats, they can roar like tigers, Like, maybe it can be. I do admit that we don't have we have very knowledgeable people, but my God, they put their worst foot forward when it comes to communication, and it's very non-professional, So maybe we need to invest in that, teach people how to speak, how to write, those kind of things. Appreciation of language as a medium, not for some mundane, but as a form of power in itself. Yes, he's absolutely right. Vak is the most important thing, like can this awareness be taught? How much is Hindu political apathy today related to a failure to communicate? I don't think we are failing in communication. At least on social media, there's a lot of movement. Failure to effectively communicate, perhaps yes, because we mistake noise and volume with value. And that's not necessarily the case. But his question is much deeper. His question is, what are the stories we tell each other? What are we communicating to each other in a sense that is inspiring or energizing? And the answer is not much. Not much, because like Even the word ferocious is a pretty dangerous word because it immediately means that there are people who won't like it. Okay, some people like somebody is fighting with fury. But if you're asking what is the nature of the communication, I would say, in one sense, I don't know if I'm right about this, but my feeling is we've topped out uh, in what we could do with social media and what we could do with finding like-minded people and finding like-minded individuals. More or less, if you start developing a little voice, immediately people start coming in. Maybe we could ask more people to speak up, because a lot of what is not communicated, or the people who have the ability to communicate, they are afraid. They are afraid that if they do that, then they'll become social pariahs at their job or in their social circle or things like that. Maybe we could ask that. But again, I would believe that is because we are not able to make the argument strongly enough that, yeah, I speak up for Hindu issues, so what? I certainly believe that it's not enough people are speaking up. When the people who do speak up, they're not supported enough. And the lots more people could have a little bit of courage and speak up forcibly. Now, in terms of the skill, I don't know to how much you can train somebody. Maybe you can take somebody who has the natural talent and make them skillful. But if the person doesn't have the natural talent to communicate, I don't know to what extent you can train somebody.
But in the context of Sri Aurobindo's remark about decline of thought power,
Yeah,
how would you address that?
it's pretty evident, isn't it? I mean, just look at that period between, say, 1865 to 1950, and look at the galaxy of great spiritual teachers and masters. Just look. 1950 was when Sri Aurobindo and Ramana Maharishi both passed away. And then look at what we have currently. And look at the value of the works being produced. Are we producing in-depth works? Spiritual works, works on culture. Okay, works on culture, not so bad. Things are really improving. But in terms of intellectual decline, I don't think that can be denied. I don't think that can be denied, because at one time we were working with calculus and we were calculating orbits of the planets and things like that, with none of the modern equipment. So maybe it's a phrase, because you must understand that we had a famine every 11 years or something under the British rule. So it really sort of broke many things. It broke many things in society. It broke traditional structures, it broke traditional systems of knowledge, and like everything became about survival. So maybe it's now that we are thinking of something beyond survival. So I wouldn't want to, I mean, I am very hard on society, but I also understand why our society is the way it is. So it is true that we lack intellectual firepower. Giving galis is no substitute. We are very good at ringing people and then pouring vitriol on them, but that doesn't work. You need something substantive. And I don't think we have anything very much substantive from our side. Vamsi is a very important voice. He wrote a blog just 2-3 days back. It was just an extraordinary response to everything that has been playing out the last fortnight. Now, somebody like Vamsi needs to be respected, followed, made more powerful, made more dominant. It's not happening. For whatever reasons, for whatever reasons.
So I'll just jump to the ending part.
Yeah.
Because the question is such, and I'm sticking to the same question. So, is there like a decline of thought power? Is also suggests obviously that there is a decline in Shakti, right? The personal Shakti that an individual has. So
There's a decline in physical strength.
yeah, the physical strength as well. But if we were to revive the intellectual power of India, is there a particular deity or is there a particular kind of sadhana which is
Any deity, Buddhi Vikas, like there is no deity which says, okay, only strength will come, or only, at the end of all the stutis, there is always a paragraph which says all the benefits that you will get. You will get money, you will get health, and there's always Buddhi in it also. So, I mean, as it is, anyways, we don't have forgotten how to worship properly also. Most of the time, we are trading, no? God, please do this for me, and Monday I will come, or I will do this, or I will. The Visa Balaji temple. It's in Hyderabad.
People
Yeah,
there too.
yeah. So every time you go there, it's quite surreal sight. It's actually a Tirupati Balaji temple, but it's called the Visa temple because people go there and they do mannat. Please God, give me a visa. We must be the only country which prays to God, please take me out of my own country. And so there are people doing 11 pradakshinas, 101 pradakshinas, 1100 pradakshinas, because all those, the difficulty of getting the visa increases the pradakshina, and they do it by proxy. Yeah, you can hire people to do it, or you're one of your family members, because you got the visa now, you can't wait, you have to go. Especially after Trump has come in, you have to go, so your family member comes to do the pradakshina for you. But they did something very spectacularly recently. The main priest there, he carried a Dalit on his shoulder and took him. He became Muni Vahana, and he took him inside the main Garbhagriha, saying that it is time that we stop this nonsense. Now that temple is famous for another reason. They don't accept dakshina. They have no dakshina peti. They absolutely will not accept donations. So they are a very different kind of temple, but this site is something to see. You need to see people go round and round and round. So I'm sure if you ask him, he'll give you more than visa, but apparently visa is the gateway to heaven. So, so but I'm just saying, see, we have reduced that temple to a one purpose thing. But see what the main man has done. He's in his 60s. The only thing he asks is, please give me somebody thin because I'm old. From the main gateway, he carried on his shoulder to the inside. So it's not like there is any lack of buddhi. It's not like there is any, and it came because he was very devout. He felt that the Balaji was speaking to him. It came because he was devout, and he dared to do a thing like that. And the best part was there was no opposition. Everybody said this is wonderful. So I don't lose hope that easily. I tend to get angry, that is a different matter, but I'm always hopeful. Now, if I always say that when the person stops complaining, they've checked out. They don't intend to stay anymore. As long as the person is complaining, the person is invested. The person cares what happens. That is why they're complaining. When the people stop complaining, that time the resume is already out in the market. Let's go. So if you're asking that, is there going to be a spiritual intervention? I'm afraid, with internet and all that, reading has become a very rare phenomenon now. Maybe not to this crowd because everybody has, but yeah, in general, I remember somebody was recently telling me how fast his eyes move, because I'm reading a book and they're not used to seeing eyes move that fast. But I grew up in a time, I'm 53, I grew up in a time when there was only radio. So if you wanted to learn, you weren't going to learn anything from Akashvani, I could tell you that. If you wanted to learn, you had to read. Today it's different because of YouTube. YouTube has become like a sort of universal mind for the planet. And almost anything that is important and significant is being uploaded. Like 18 hours of content per minute are being uploaded on. Per minute, not per hour. Yeah.
So a lot of this comes from the fact that there is a lack of understanding of the basic tenets.
Yeah.
So we go to the next section, which is about addressing some very basic questions, which
Yeah.
maybe the members of this audience may not find very relevant because, but for the larger audience out there, when this goes on YouTube, like you said.
Yeah. Y'all are just window dressing. YouTube is the main. YouTube is the main target audience.
So you're a devotee of Shiva in the form
Yes.
of Nataraja. Now, could you tell us a little bit about your understanding of Shiva and who he is, and what he?
Oh boy, you guys believe in asking galactic questions. I really shouldn't answer that because there is no end to what. I would say that in one sense, I would say Shiva is the most. Only India could have created a devta like that, because Rakshasas can worship him, Asuras can worship him, humans can worship him, Devas can worship him. No rejection, everybody. So, in one sense, it is the ultimate inclusive kind of. There are no parameters, there are no filters, and all the stories are about. All he cares about is devotion. He does not care about the standard procedures or do it correctly. All he cares about is devotion. So, in that sense, we have created a devta that anybody can access. There is no, because you lack knowledge, because you lack the skill, there is no thing that you cannot accept. So, in that sense, I would say that Shiva is a pretty wonderful kind of creation of the Indian mind, or maybe it is the first kind of deva, because even if you look at the Indus Valley seals, the Harappan culture seals, there is what they call a proto Shiva, which is of course disputed by a lot of people. I don't dispute it because there is in that seal very clearly you can see the Urdhva lingam, which means that the lingam is erect and it has gone into the navel. Very clearly you can see. It's a small thing, but you blow it up and you can see that. Now that is something that happens when you do certain kind of Kundalini yoga practices. This has been mentioned by Muktananda, the guy who went abroad. It is in his book, and I can tell you it happened to me too. So we are talking about 5,000, 6,000 years of unbroken descent of certain spiritual practice. Now in any sane culture, that would have been understood as a yogic Shiva, that would have been understood that this is how long. But here we are, no, they were not Hindus. No, they were, if it was in a European this thing, they would have made 20-foot murtis of that little plaque, and they would have had annual drumming festivals around it. And out here we are rejecting it. And anybody, see, the problem is those who are in archaeology, those who are in history, those who are scholars, they are not people of sadhana. Usually, they are not people of experience. So you cannot expect an archaeologist to look at that and say, he might be able to compare it, but here it's very clearly it happens at a certain stage of meditation. Urdhva lingam, it happens. It's a very well-known process in yoga. But if you're not in yoga, how will it be well known to you? Now, more than that, what do you want? You want like a tablet where all the steps are carved out. Yes, they want that level of. Nobody thinks of that, because it's only in India that the specific Urdhva linga thing has happened. There are phallic things elsewhere, but Urdhva linga is only in India because it's a yogic thing that happens. Any other country, it would have been a big thing, and we have an unbroken descent of yoga for so many years. It's an important thing. We have Shiva, but Shiva is from there. It's that early on, Shiva, Adi Yogi, whatever you want to call it. So in that sense, but I'm not saying that only Shiva should therefore be worshipped. No, that is absolutely dumb. You pick a devta or a form that resonates with you, because the idea of doing Murti Puja or Devta Puja is to awaken those qualities in you. No Hindu believes that the Murti is actually God. The Murti is like a telephone, we use it to connect to source. No, nobody is stupid enough to believe that this actually is God. We value it, we worship it, we respect it, but we understand this is a symbol of the certain kind of qualities and attributes that I want to awaken within myself. Your sadhana is meant to awaken those qualities within yourself. And then the devta or the energy or the source or whatever, that aspect of consciousness guides you. That is the whole purpose of Murti Puja. It's extremely sophisticated, and it has been reduced into fetish and totem and foolishness like that. Now, stupidity is infinite and not worth fighting. Yeah, I mean, I don't bother trying to explain to people, because once a person is coming from an ideological point of view, you cannot explain to them. It requires exceptional intellectual integrity in a person to listen to another point of view and take it on. And people who are ideologically possessed, they don't have intellectual integrity. It's very rare to see intellectual integrity in people. Everybody thinks they possess it. It's very rare, actually. It's an astonishing thing to see intellectual integrity in another human being.
In fact, that's a very important point you make, because when we talk about the Shivalinga
Yeah.
and
It's phallus and yoni.
and so people tend to, I think, again, Rajiv Malhotra wrote about this once in Sulekha, one of his earlier blogs
This
about.
is the oldest boring issue
Yeah.
from the time the British have come here. People have been answering. वो
And yet-
शिवलिंगा है, वो ऐसा नहीं है. पुराने शिवलिंग देखो, उसमें योनि नहीं है. वो बाद में तांत्रिक बेस था. And anyways, by the way, that's how you were born, lingam in yoni. That's just an awareness of the origin of life. What is there to be ashamed of it? But somewhere in the Victorian era, we internalize completely the Victorian habits. And now, what is called Hindu morality is actually Victorian era morality, So I don't really want to answer that thing about Shivalingam, because it's a nuisance. It's a nuisance question. I mean, anybody who really wants to know about Shivalingam, please read Stella Kramish. She was a survivor of the Nazi death camps. Please read Stella Kramish, The Presence of Shiva. I am ashamed to say it is still the best book on Shiva. By far. And anybody who wants to really see what devotion to Shiva means, please learn. She was a German Jew and she has written the best book on Shiva. जो मुझे बहुत परेशान करता है, but मेरे में उतना बुद्धि नहीं है. I am not as bright as Stella. But all these things have been answered. They've been answered again and again. So when I see that question come up, I see deceit and dishonesty in it. I don't see that as an honest question.
No, but the problem is that these questions come from Hindus also.
Well, most Hindus are halal certified anyway. They're not. They're not. The socially acceptable Hinduism is something that does not cause any kind of disquiet or any kind of dissonance in anybody who is not a Hindu. So then, what is Hindu about you? Halal certification ही ढूंढता है. Like you have to become. The ideal Hindu is the one who stands in Anjali Mudra practicing Maunavrata, like that is like the halal certified secular acceptable Hindu. जो अंजलि मुद्रा में खड़ा होता है मौनव्रता करते हुए, वो अच्छा हिंदू है. मैं जैसा एकदम संगी, bigot, fanatic.
So you mentioned Murti Puja.
Yeah.
And Murti being a connection to the source. Can you tell us a little bit about Murti's Sthapana and consecration? How does that happen?
See, I'd rather not say all those things in public because it's not like I don't know, I can't say, but there are certain things which should not be just said in public. There are books on it. If you can find, you can find, but I can assure you that the books never give the whole story. But yeah, what I can say briefly is that we can take a form. We can take a form, how many hands, how many mudras, what is held in the hand, how is the form position, all that has certain symbolic meaning, and then you can energize it. That is called consecration. You can energize it in a certain way so that it impacts your consciousness and your psyche in certain very well-defined manners. Now, if you do the puja of Ganpati, you are not going to get the same result as the puja of Kartik. Kartika puja to India mein band ho gaya except Tamil Nadu where Muruga, So Muruga is like still. But there are different, each form has a certain set of parameters that can be activated in you. And that is very well understood. It's a very, very, very highly developed and sophisticated science. But I do not feel comfortable revealing how it is done. Because, it is not a matter for curiosity. It is a matter for commitment. If people are really committed to those kind of things, then we can explain. But I mean, the way they energize a murti, like they even put copper little copper discs on all the major chakras, and they put little wires and they put it into an electrolyte. So actually electricity runs up and down. I can tell you that part. But it's actually done. It's actually done in all the major temples. They actually sort of shock treatment deta hai. It's an actual electrolyte solution. It's basically vegetable juices and fruit juices, but it becomes an electrolyte solution, and you dip those things, and then weak current begins running up and down. It's actually done. That part I can say, because what is the inner thing about it, that I'm not going to say. But it's a very sophisticated science, and I'm sorry to report that it's also dying. The amount of people who can properly consecrate a murti is shrinking every year. And those who know, they don't want their children to get into it, because the amount of effort you have to make to train that person, and then uske baad kya milta hai usko? So they feel that, let my child become a chartered accountant. I'm not blaming them for that. I think they're quite right. But we should. बातें करना बहुत आसान है, रिसोर्सेस लगाना तब तो थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. Because all this requires training. To become a pujari capable of doing puja in a temple, it requires 10 years of training. So many years to learn the shlokas, so many years to learn all the puja vidhis. 10 साल जान लगाना पड़ता है, और उसके बाद 215 रुपया देते हैं. So why will anybody go for that unless they have? I remember the Somanatheshwara temple. It's a Chennakeshwara temple in Karnataka. It's one of the living Hoysala temples. And the guy who is the pujari now, nobody was willing to marry him. Because I don't want to be a pujari's wife, because he'll be stuck to the temple. He won't be able to go anywhere. I want somebody who can travel with me, who can. And finally, some girl from Mysore, God knows how she agreed. So you see, there are practical reasons why a thing dies out. If a person can't get married, he needs to have extraordinary reasons or extraordinary devotion to still. नहीं तो कैसे चलेगा? So we don't ask, we don't think, we don't think that how complex it is to create a. The size of the murti in the temple determines the shape, the structure, everything, the dimensions of the temple courtyard, because everything is a fractal of the original murti. It's completely done at a level of sophistication that is unbelievable. Today, temples are not made like that, because nowadays, wherever you get space, go and make a community hall, and then stick one ugly marble thing there and have a big Dakshina Peti. That is the real God there, Today, a proper temple according to the Agama Shastra is very difficult, because on certain holy days of the year, the sun ray must fall on the murti. So there are only X number of places. There are so many factors, the soil, the consistency. I mean, when you look at it, it's like, my God. Yes, of course, then it will be dismissed all as superstition. Hindus must evolve to keep up with the current times. Yes, please keep. Whether you're evolving or devolving, that is another matter. But accept that तुमसे नहीं होता है. ऐसा एक मंदिर बनाना तुमसे नहीं होता है. Accept your inferiority. Then evolve as much as you want.
So in the beginning you mentioned about karma being one of the central tenets. So we have a question. Again, the name of the person is not mentioned, but he or she says that if we believe in the concept of karma, then what is the point of worshipping a deity? What is the relationship? How does a deity?
Don't worship. Who's holding a gun to your head?
So it says our past karma.
If you think that you are so good that you can get away without worship, without a guru, then go right ahead. Nobody stops you. When you burn your fingers enough, then you will learn some humility and you will come. Yeah, what is the rest of the question?
That our past karmas will decide our future. So where
No. That cannot be allowed to pass.
Yeah.
Who said that our past karmas will decide our future? That's an assumption. That's an assumption that is inaccurate. Your past karmas decide your present reality. It does not decide your future.
I think this is the assumption here is something like a zero sum game, either or situation. या तो कर्म होगा या deity होगा. There's no interplay allowed in the question. It just says that if you worship a deity,
वो
then
unsophisticated question है. It's not a question that has any knowledge of karma. It does not understand the nuances of karma, how karma activates. It does not understand anything about Murti Puja because, like I said, Murti Puja has become bargaining. मेरे को वीजा दे दो, मैं चक्कर लगाऊंगा. And that's a very nice temple, by the way. It's an authentic, powerful temple. But किसी एक गधे को वीजा मिल गया बस. And then after that, the whole temple has been. It's a really powerful temple. It's a really top class temple. Something that people in sadhana can gain by visiting. Chilkuru, Tirupati Balaji temple, more famously known as the Visa temple. ऐसा ही होता है ना, like you go there and you will get, why did Shirdi Sai Baba became famous? Because he was a great spiritual master? No. Because if you visited him, you were guaranteed to get children. In those days, at his time, it was a big deal. So if it give you imli, it meant a son, and if he gave you a fruit, it meant a daughter. That is the beginning of the entire Sai Baba phenomenon. Who'll believe it? But it's the truth. He's reduced to being a fertility expert,
fertility clinic.
But it's the truth. बाद में then other things about him and all that. But his fame, his original fame was purely this. Go to that Babaji and you're guaranteed to get a child.
So, I mean, while the question is not framed well, can we take this as an opportunity to, to elaborate a little bit on the interplay between your karma and where your sadhana comes in and where the deity helps out?
See, where the devta, if you have a good relationship with the devta and the devta is working through you or guiding you or whatever, I would say that it's very rare that you can choose. You are normally chosen. I would say it's very rare that something happens to you and your whole life circumstance changes. And then you wake up and you say, yeah, fine. But in terms of karma, there is something in that. You see, if you say that, yeah, I am what I am because of what I did in the past, then what I become in future will also be because of what I am. So why does it stop at I am what I am because of what I did in the past and therefore it will continue into the future? That's an absurd supposition. No? So the very fact that you are in a hole today because of your karma is actually hopeful. You can get out, stop doing the things that put you into the hole, and do things which enable you to climb out. So this, it seems to be like many people seem to think of karma as very deterministic. Everything is carved in stone and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't think that was the idea of the notion of action consequence loop. Action as consequence which causes further action which causes further consequence, and it keeps spilling. So the whole thing is to stop that entire action consequence loop. So the old joke was that it's a really bad joke, but still okay. The notion of the West is don't just sit there, do something, and the notion of India is that don't do something, just sit there. But psychologically, yeah, because just sit there means that you're not furthering the loop of karma. You're not just sending out the further and further. Now, about how the devta acts, again, that is a sadhana question, and sadhana questions should not be asked in public forums. Go with little humility to a guru and learn. But that seems to be the most difficult thing for people to, or try to figure it out on your own. No? But ये ऐसे wild assumptions बनाते हैं. It only means, like you said, lack of intellectual thinking. I mean, it's like what kind of an assumption is that? Where does it flow from one to the other? It doesn't. Again, See, we didn't need to know all these things. We would, we would hear stories, we would go for satsangs, we would go to the temple. Our education was organic. Today we have to sit down and break down. There are so many kinds of karma. This is how it works. This is how the other one works. We have to actually re-educate our people in all things which were like the air we breathe, And I remember once Swami Chinmayananda was asked that, are you coming to America to convert Americans to Hinduism? And his instant answer was, I'd be very happy if I could convert Hindus to Hinduism. And I think that's actually what even I'm doing to a large extent. I'm like, okay, here we go. No, that's not what it means. Here we go. Let's go. Again, is anybody to be blamed for that? Our parents didn't sit and think, okay, let's give this person an English education and completely filter anything authentic out of his life, Anything that is part of the soil, part of the air, atmosphere, culture, legacy, let's remove it. Let's make him a very poor imitation, a third-rate European, Nobody thought of that. That was not the reason why it was done. It was done so that we could get ahead in life, get educated, get a better. But that is what happened. And then here, I am here, having to speak on obvious things. And I'm like, ये सब बोलना पड़ता है क्या? या बोलना पड़ता है? और बार-बार बोलना पड़ता है और हमेशा बोलना पड़ता है. Because, it appalls me to see that Shivalingam question. It just, my heart sinks when I see that Shivalingam question. How many times will this nonsense be raised? कितनी बार एक ही सवाल पूछे जाएगा. And I'm like, तुम immaculate conception था क्या? तुमको problem क्या है, शिवलिंगा?
So the next question is on a theme which your writings often talk about. So this is from Rupam Das. And he asks, what makes us different from other living beings such that we are capable of great acts as well as heinous crimes? What makes us so susceptible to Asura Prakriti? And do other living beings also display Asura Prakriti, or is it just humans? So if you could just touch upon the Asura Prakriti.
Yeah. What makes us different is frontal lobes. This is unique in all mammal species. We have redundancy built into an extraordinary level. No, we don't need this much brain power. Nobody understands why it happened. It's an evolutionary breakthrough, and suddenly we got a ton of brain, and there's nothing to be done with it. Now, what is the other part of the question? He had asked, what differentiates us from other living beings?
Yeah, and then what makes us so susceptible to...
What differentiates us from other living beings is that we are conscious that we are conscious. And this has been understood not just by spiritual people, even scientists understand that. The technical classification for human beings is Homo sapiens sapiens. Man who is aware that he is aware. Sapiens means aware. Man is aware that he is aware. We are the only people who know that we are thinking. We are the only animal who is I'm not so sure about cats, by the way. Yeah. I don't trust them fully. I mean, I love them, but I'm not so sure that they don't have awareness. And snakes. Yeah, I'm not so sure that they don't have awareness. But it has been seen. Human consciousness is odd. Human consciousness is a peculiarity and even the word manava, the word human, comes from manasa, which comes from mind. That the human mind is an oddity in the living world. So that is what differentiates us, because if you're looking at strength and power, any chimpanzee can rip you to small pieces in 2 minutes. A chimpanzee is really fierce, it's really strong, and it can literally tear you apart with its hands. It's that strong. But they are living on our mercy. All living beings are living on our mercy. We don't understand that. Whether we like it or not, we have become responsible for all living things on the planet. We can wipe out any of them, and every year so many are being lost, and which is all really bad karma. The Asura Prakriti is the demonic or the nasty side of nature, malevolence, like you see, the other thing that makes us human, and this is the Asura Prakriti, this is the bad thing that makes us human, we are capable of deliberately inflicting suffering. An animal can rip you apart, but it won't rip you apart because it takes pleasure in doing it. It got frightened, you threatened it, it will do what it needs to do, or you look very tasty and it didn't have lunch, so. But we can deliberately torture, we can inflict pain on other living beings because it makes us feel powerful or because we are sick in the head and it gives us pleasure. That is the demonic aspect of human nature. And don't think that, oh, I would never be capable of doing that. That is the other great problem. Given the right circumstances, given enough pressure, given enough difficult circumstances, all of us are capable of doing horrific things. Many people say no, under no circumstance. You just put a gun to the kid's head and say, okay, now circumstance has changed. So this understanding of our horror that resides within us, this understanding of the evil that we are capable of, that is the Asura Prakriti. That is the demonic nature, the demonic aspect of nature. And there are certain occult and spiritual and other things, but I am talking purely from a psychological and an individual perspective. There is a larger Asura Prakriti and there is a social Asura Prakriti and things like that. But if you try to develop and if you think of yourself as purely good, you are in very big trouble. Because when you meet a genuinely malevolent person, you won't know what the hell to do. And I think Hindus have this problem. We've tried to be sattvic and sattvic and sattvic and sattvic, and we've forgotten what to do when confronted with a rajasic or a tamasic person, We go into stress. We actually suffer post-traumatic stress disorder. I think whole of Hindu society is post-traumatic stress disorder. We don't know what to do when we are confronted with a person who is malevolent, who wishes to cause us harm, who takes pleasure in suffering. How can a person be like that? And we just don't know what to do. Kick his ass. Then what about ahimsa? रीढ़ का हड्डी नहीं है, अहिंसा का बात करता है. Ahimsa is only for the sannyasi. The sannyasi has taken the vow of absolute non-resistance, non-violence. Not for people like us. Kick ass. Often. And effectively. Yeah.
So the next few questions come from children.
Okay.
So they're a little, basic and.
Yeah, it's fine.
So one of the, we've addressed Murti Puja already, but then there's some questions about rituals. For example, this is in Hindi, Shivratri par. So this is also indicative of the fact that how our children are conditioned through the very education that we proudly submit them to. तो शिवरात्रि पर इतना दूध बर्बाद क्यों किया जाता है? क्योंकि शिव जी को दूध चढ़ाने की मान्यता है. तो अगर हाँ, तो भगवान ऐसे वास्ते करने वाली मान्यता को क्यों बनाते हैं?
All right, so nobody should come in car, everybody take the public transport only. If you have the resources, why don't you use it? These are not arguments that are really very valid. They are just sentimental arguments. हर कोई मारुति 800 में ही चलेगा क्या? कोई ऑडी नहीं चलाएगा? When it comes to my personal life, if I can afford an Audi, that's fine. But if I spend more money on a puja, that's bad. How is it bad? maybe it's not for you, or maybe you cannot afford it at the moment, fine, but that doesn't mean that you can, it is a wrong thing to do. Now, why milk is used on Shivalingam and all that, there is a whole process of how to do Abhishekam. There are certain, you don't randomly do Abhishekam. Unfortunately, that's what's happening. See, one of the things that has happened is that a lot of, every time a library or a university would be destroyed, a lot of the spiritual knowledge also would be destroyed. Every time a temple would be destroyed, a lot of the spiritual knowledge would be destroyed. So in large parts of North India, the Agama Shastras have vanished. There are no Agamas there anymore. I'm not too happy with that, but okay, we can deal with it. I would like one rule to be universal in all over India, and that we don't allow people to go inside and touch the murti. I would like that one rule to be universal, because I really don't want Neta, Abhineta, Sarkari Babu touching the murti. That part we should, I think, make a one universal rule. Again, I don't want it to be a compulsion on anybody, but I would like it if all the temples would agree to that themselves. The chances of it happening are minuscule. I am waiting for when the buddhi ka vikas ho, and then we should actually do that. But in terms of why Abhishekam, it's not just milk, honey is also used. Chandan ka pani bhi use karte hain, nimbu ka pani bhi use karte hain. Ab milk, see, we are talking two domains. We are talking a sort of practical domain, or we are a poor country and such wastage is not a good thing. Then it should apply to everything, not just to Hindu religious practices. If you're going to uniformly apply it in all aspects of life, fine. मैं पानी से काम चला लूंगा, नहीं तो चुप बैठ. Now, to explain the reasons why Abhishekam is done, the Abhishekam sequence is also very, very tight. There is a certain way, and you have to do it that way. You have to use this material first, then this material, then this material. There are certain things on how to preserve the energy of the Shivalinga. It's all complicated stuff. Ab Shivratri pe, I suppose everybody wants to show their devotion, so that the rest of the year I didn't go, but is raat to Shivji ko nahlayenge, because it would be much better if you would sit and meditate all night on Shivratri instead of doing Abhishekam. But okay, Abhishekam hi sahi, if that's all you can do. But yeah, again I'm saying it's confusing categories. You see, it's confusing. And I suppose the answer to a child is that's how the puja is done correctly. So either we do the puja correctly or we give up the puja, and I'm not in favor of giving up the puja. And anybody who argues offensively in favor of giving up the puja, I am in favor of not to children, but
So one more similar question before we move to the next category, which is about विसर्जन. नदियों में मूर्तियों का विसर्जन क्यों किया जाता है और इनसे प्रदूषण होता है? और
that is because of the materials used in the murtis. I would be the happiest person in the world if there was a rule passed that all murtis are to be made of mud only. No plaster of Paris, no artificial paints, only traditional vegetable dyes. I would be the happiest person. There is no pollution. There was no pollution earlier. नदी होगा तभी ना विसर्जन करेंगे अब तो. Just go to Tamil Nadu and see. Kaveri doesn't reach bloody sea 3-4 months of the year. Kaveri, one of the greatest rivers of the country. विसर्जन कहाँ करने वाला है? But yeah, it is a question of, you use plaster Paris, thermocol and all that. You use mud. What is the problem? You use natural vegetable dyes. What is the problem? So it's that part I would really like some regulation. And instead of waiting for the government to regulate, why doesn't the Hindu community only say we will use only the traditional materials? Because ab dikhawa ho gaya na, we want to make the bigger pandal, the bigger murti, and mud has a limit. You cannot make beyond a certain limit. So if you want to make another Statue of Liberty, then you have to use some other kind of. And Visarjan is psychologically such a brilliant concept, that everything ends, everything dissolves. And from childhood we see that 3 दिन 4 दिन, especially Bengal में दुर्गा को लाके आते हैं, इतना बड़ा हंगामा होता है, and then at the end of that you take it and you put it into the Ganga, and you can see it, and that whole sense of everything has a finite existence and it goes. It's a very wise thing to do, it's a very extraordinary thing to do. So yeah, again, it's a confusion of categories. The problem is not with Visarjan, the problem is with, first we don't have river water only. So, पेड़ लगाओ, fix करो, rally for rivers करो, Jaggi Vasudev जो कर रहा है, you do that, and then go back to your tradition. I would like to see the word tradition become more important than the word reform again. We are too prone to falling down and worshipping anytime somebody says reformer. And I'm like, yeah, so what? That's part of the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem of these guys were doing some kind of big favor. So anytime you see the enemies of Hinduism praising somebody within the Hindu community as being a reformer, make big question marks appear around that, Like, okay, what's going on here? Why is this going on here? They don't praise you because they find something valuable in you. If they are praising somebody, there's a devious reason behind it. So I'm saying I would like to see the word traditional become more powerful once again than reform. No, I'm not going to say that. I've already said enough. I've already said enough. But yeah, I am very suspicious of the word reform. I'm very, very suspicious of the word reform. There will be time for questions.
So now we come to the next part of the program, which is about.
No, the clarification of what he said. The tradition of the word.
Reform versus tradition.
See, with the example of the murtis, as long as the murtis were being made with traditional materials, there was no problem. It's when you started innovations out of ego and display reasons that the problem started. And we must understand another problem. We have too many damn people, man. We have at least 4 times, maybe 5 times the population that can be reasonably sustained. That is our number one human, social, everything problem, and nobody is wanting to deal with it. As long as we have so many. So, I do not concede that just because somebody is called a reformer, therefore automatically their point of view is more valuable than the traditional ongoing. One does not junk 2,000, 3,000 years of an ongoing spiritual system merely because somebody has now got a sticker of reformer on it. That's all.
So the next question is, the next section is to do with comparative religion.
Oh boy, okay.
So,
I actually got a university topper from Bombay University on comparative mythology, just in case it helps. The mythologies of the world.
So, this question, so this question comes from someone, and the question is that Hindus often talk about Quran being violent and promoting violence, but Mahabharata is itself about war, right? So, although this question does not say this, but I interpret it in a sense that what is the difference between jihad and dharma yudh, for example?
See, this one-to-one parallelism is very dangerous. The Mahabharata context is much more ancient to begin with than the Quran. And to say there is violence here, there is violence there, therefore it is all the same. We cannot really answer a question like that because it's a false question. It's not a question that is operating with any nuance, and it's not a question that's coming from any understanding of context. It's just here is a violent incident, here is a violent incident. and therefore it is all the same. That is a sort of let us not tread on each other's toes, which I'm in favor of. Let us not tread on each other's toes. Now, if you ask, if I say what is Dharma Yudh, then from the Muslim side they will say yes, but that is exactly what is jihad. Because their notion of it is an internal struggle, it is only to be indulged in when there is threat to society, and the theology is all very fine, but what is actually going on, and the word is in the mouths of very dangerous people doing very dangerous things. Insofar as what is Islamic society's responsibility to recalibrate the meaning of the word jihad, that is not our problem, that is their problem, it is their issue. Our only response should be like, if we are the targets of such an action, how do we respond? That is our job, and I don't think we are doing a very good job of responding, because we are wasting time in all these futile one-to-one correspondences where there is no correspondence to begin with. The Mahabharata is an epic, it is an itihasa, it is not a scripture. So to compare Mahabharata with the Quran to begin with is wrong. There is no comparison. There is also a problem I notice, that we are also developing this by the book. The book says so, therefore. And we have never been a by the book. The book is a compilation of experiences. We have been a people of experience. The experience of enlightened people has been compiled in the books. The book is not an transcendent reality in its own life. But we are also now learning that. So to put Mahabharata in the same category as Quran is anyways wrong. Mahabharata is not in the category of Quran. Mahabharata is not an infallible book. So when somebody is saying something is infallible and cannot be questioned, and if you question, there is going to be violence, I fail to see how there can be an argument. I fail to see how there can be any kind of discussion. There can't be any discussion because you are entrenched in your position. Once you are entrenched in your position, how do you discuss? So to compare an epic to a revealed scripture is essentially a wrong thing. I'm saying it's like there was an accident here, there was an accident there. Therefore, the city is prone to accidents. I mean, I can get into all the nuances and all that, but again, it's been done to death. It's been done to death. Violence in the Mahabharata, violence in what is the real meaning of jihad. These things have been thrashed over and thrashed over and thrashed over. And then when I see people raise these questions, I'm like, either you've not done your work, you've not done your homework, or your question is disingenuous. It's not a serious question. You're trying to muddy the waters. And I don't think we should allow that. So yeah, but I want this distinction to come up, that when you're comparing books, please compare the right categories. Don't compare. This is a completely different thing to compare.
In fact, if you compare the two, the narrative of the Quran is basically, plunder and loot and rape everywhere. And then there are those occasions where the choice for peace is made because, the tribes have to be appeased for a certain strategic reason. While in the Mahabharata, it is exactly the opposite, where there is a effort for reconciliation and peace everywhere, and then war happens.
They asked only for 5 villages and were told not even one needle point.
Yeah.
So they said we are willing to accept 5 villages, though Sri Aurobindo has written a very brilliant book called Veda Vyasa and Valmiki. I recommend that everybody read it, where he has explained why they asked for those 5 villages. And it was not so simple as it looks. It's a brilliant book. It's an incomplete book. He was just putting down his thoughts on Valmiki and Veda Vyasa. And when they were told, no, you're not going to get even one needle point of land, that's when the violence finally had to break out, because it was a question of last recourse. But again, like I say, like I say, there are violent passages, but we don't have prescriptions to kill like that in scripture, or not what would be considered scripture. Maybe in our epics, maybe in other granthas we have prescriptions for violence, but we don't have them in a. Not really. Of course, there are certain episodes in the Vedas and all that you can consider, but I am not an Ahimsavadi, so I don't care. I'm like, yeah, fine, so what? But I'm saying it's wrong to compare Mahabharata to Quran. At a basic level, that's a wrong answer. Now, I don't mind that because they are saying that the Quran is only an epic. So I'm actually arguing for the primacy of scripture,
So this next question is very, it's framed in a funny way. It's not really a question, but just a comment. So I'll try and, extract a question out of it.
All right.
Which the statement made is that our goal should be to make a Muslim a better Muslim and a Christian a better Christian. And our goal should not be to make divisions based on religion, which is essentially, I suppose, it's saying that, the same old, all religions.
Hey, what color is the sky this person inhabits the world?
So I suppose the question is really that
this person has not read a single decent history book in life. So,
yeah. I think we should move on then. So
how do you answer the impossible? Kya hai?
Okay, so we come to the...
And how is it, 1 minute, how is it our responsibility to make them better? हम कंपैशन का कूली कब से बन गए? ये हमारा काम कब से बन गया? You see, this is how the arguments are framed. They are completely irrational arguments. They are completely unthinking arguments.
इसका जवाब है वैसे मेरे पास.
हाँ, क्या है?
1869 में.
अच्छा.
जब गांधी जी पैदा हुए. Okay, so we come to the final section, which is about sadhana and questions of that kind. So we have Rajashri sitting here, and his question is very interesting. I think this is nice. Tell us something about your own spiritual journey. Any interesting spiritual episodes and experiences that you can share with us?
Good Lord, how does it help you? What did you mean by that? I mean, like some Vishesh Tippani or something titillating or what? I'll tell you one interesting thing that happened to me recently, and I think it's a consequence of my sadhana. It's very interesting. In Tamil Nadu, they have this thing called Nadi Shastra, where they take your fingerprint and then they go inside and they come out with these palm leaf scrolls. And they tell you, like, so long before Aadhaar, we were using fingerprints, and they tell you about your life and things like that. And it's pretty extraordinary. Sometimes they come and tell you we have no match. So, you've just recently been incarnated as a human being. We can't do anything with you. But it's pretty extraordinary because they can tell you quite remarkably accurate things about yourself. So I went to do this, and so they did all that, date of birth, fingerprint. They went and they bought it, and they started telling me, you're born into this kind of family, and I'm like, no. This you have so many siblings. I'm like, no. Your mother's name begins with this syllable, your father's name begins. I'm like, no. I'm like, okay, I've been robbed or something, Then they opened up something which was dealing purely with my spiritual life, and it completely zapped me because they got every single thing right. Meaning, when the year I met my guru, what my guru is like, her physical state of health, what the issue is, how I grew, what were the significant years in my growth. I mean, it was like a printout of a blueprint, but everything else is completely nonsense, rubbish. So then I'm like, why did this happen? Why did something happen that in the spiritual life they get it? And then they also told me that you see, this is the cultural limitation. They told me in my previous life, I was a buffalo herder in Madurai. You know, like. so, so that might make a lot of sense for how I act and behave, you know. But so then I had this question: how did they get this one thing right and everything else wrong? And then I remembered what somebody had once told me, very powerful yogi had once told me, that once your Kundalini activates, then Kundali phat dalo. Your horoscope, your entire karmic pattern is no longer valid. So, in that one thread only of the spiritual life, it was scary. I can really tell you, it was scary how accurate they were. And in everything else, it was hilarious how mistaken they were. You know, about the buffaloes, I don't know. You know, maybe it happened, maybe it did. But yeah, this is a very interesting thing to me, that when they say that coming into sadhana changes your karma. So while I always believed it, I think this for me was some kind of confirmation that coming into sadhana actually literally changes your karma. You know, it actually shifts. So whatever my normal life would have been was different, and they picked up. Or maybe my soul got sent to the wrong set of parents, you know. Or maybe I'm actually not me, I'm possessed by somebody else and he's living my life out. Multiple interesting variations, but yeah. So it became very clear to me that if you do any kind of yoga seriously, your entire karmic path can change. Your entire karmic path can change. But of the strong karma, the strongest is the karma for when you have a spiritual dimension in your life. That does not leave you. It will catch you and force you to come on track. So that karma is still playing out beautifully, and the others are all irrelevant. So I don't know if that's what you wanted to know, but you know, I'm very hesitant to say anything autobiographical because I have led an extremely colorful life. So you know, Guruji ka stature ekdam gaib hai is pani mein, you know. Maybe when I'm very old and it doesn't matter, मैं बोल दूंगा.
So there's this question which takes your conversation on Indic Roots, your recent interview,
Yeah.
which I haven't been able to watch, unfortunately. But so it says that he mentioned he has oriented his sangha to be primarily focused on meditation, and felt that lack of importance given to meditation in contemporary Hindu religion is a reason for downfall.
Yeah.
Could he clarify more on this comment, and what type of meditation does he recommend, and what is the impact of meditation on spiritual shift?
Yes, I have been finding this. It's not like meditation has stopped, but meditation is not popular. You know, there are so many movements, and they are all bhakti movements, kriya movements. You know, the meditation aspect is, you know, dhyana, dharana, atma vichara. These are all very powerful things that we have created, especially atma vichara, which is just like the pinnacle sadhana, I would say. And like I keep saying, we should try atma vichara once in a while. You know, we are so proud of having invented it कि अब उसको गंदा नहीं करते हैं, वो वैसे ही रखते हैं, you know, use करके soil हो जाएगा. And I believe that processing what happened to you, assimilating what happened to you, allowing that to influence you makes you grow and evolve. And unless you're in the habit of meditating, that becomes difficult. So I believe that more meditative practices should be taught. I'm not saying stop the Hatha Yoga, stop the Kriya. No. जोर लगा के करो. जो मंत्र करता है, मंत्र जप करता है, all those things, keep them going, increase them. But also stress the importance of meditation. Because if you look at Veda, Upanishad and all that, they were meditative people. You can see the quality of what is emerging from the mind. You can see that it's a quality of meditation. It's quality of deep insight that is abnormal. It's not just because the mind is sharp. They're connecting to source, and something is flowing out. And if you're not in the habit of meditation, the chances that you'll be connected to source, it's not impossible, but are very little. And meditation also keeps you calmer. Meditation also keeps you more even-keeled. Now, maybe because of my nature, my temperament, I'm very fiery, so maybe I'm like, okay, you need this, otherwise you'll burn up. But I don't think so. I don't tend to be ego invested in anything. I think I can say that safely about myself. It's not that I don't have likes and dislikes, but I know how to think. And my thinking is independent of my likes and dislikes. I can just look at a situation knowing that these are my biases, these are my flaws, so I have to correct for them. And you may think, what's the big deal in that? It's a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal. Most people are not able to do that. Most people are simply not able to put aside their personal and I think I'm able to do that because of my meditation. I think I'm able to do that. And the more you come into meditation, the more I don't want to talk about interior dimension and occult and those kind of things, but even those things require a lot of sitting. बैठना पड़ता है, साधना करना पड़ता है. You have to wait. It's not enough to do the process. You have to give the process time to work on you. And if you don't meditate, then you're not giving the system, you're not giving the mind, body, emotion, and the energy body time to assimilate your process. No matter what it is, even if it is mantra japa, puja, going on pilgrimage, doing girivalam, jo bhi hai. So the importance of meditation, I was, in the West, they have taken Vipassana and they made it into mindfulness, and everybody is mindful, यहाँ mind empty होता है, but ठीक है. ठीक है. So I just thought that, dhyana and dharana, after all, part of what Patanjali taught, and there is nothing, there's nobody who's better at yoga than Patanjali. So if he laid so much emphasis on it, we should also lay emphasis on it. So it's, most people don't know that entire Yoga Sutra में asana के बारे में एक ही throwaway comment है, sthira sukham asana. That which keeps you comfortable and stable is an asana. He was much more into Atma Vichara and Dhyana Dharana, those kind of. So I suppose, given the completely pathetic physical specimens we are in, Hatha Yoga is the way to go, and then Kriya, and then slowly build up the system. Because even to meditate, you need a pretty strong body. It's not so easy. अरे क्या है, बैठने का ही तो है ना? Try it. Try it and see what comes out. So I want to go back to the really significant and important things. I want to go back to the really significant and important things of our sadhana vidhis, of our sadhana practices, and I think meditation is central. That's my personal opinion. I don't think there is any top-class yogi who would really disagree with that. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. It's my belief. So that's why I reoriented my people to become more central into meditation. That's all.
But wouldn't you say that even something like a mantra japa is a tool for Atma-vichara?
If the mantra japa has become automatic and the mantra is repeating by yourself, yes, then that's a different matter. Otherwise, you see, you cannot do meditation, you become meditative. मेडिटेशन भी एक चेकलिस्ट का एक बात हो गया है, लिस्ट ऑफ थिंग्स टू डू एंड फील गुड अबाउट माई सेल्फ. मेडिटेट, आई एम अ मेडिटेटर. नो यू नॉट. बट वो लेबल अच्छा है ना बताने के लिए. So you can't do meditation per se, you can become meditative. So something like mantra japa, of course, which is why I said strengthen all the other processes. But बैठने का भी आदत डालो. Just बैठ के, and then of course the king of all sadhanas is Atma Vichara, but given the life that we live, I don't know if it is honest, if we should really start telling people to do Atma Vichara. People need other things first. But yeah.
This question comes from Kanan, sitting here,
Okay.
and he says rigor in practice and respect for lineage
Huh.
can be injected in the way. How can it be injected in the way that we Hindus interact with our tradition?
If it is a good practice, these are automatic, no? Rigor in practice, respect for the lineage. See, Sri Aurobindo had once made a very interesting statement. He said, no enlightened man has rejected the Guruvada. No enlightened man has rejected the Guru Parampara. No enlightened man says that Gurus are not needed. Now, see, kya hai na, the way we position our practices is like, if you do this, you will get better sleep, you will sleep less, you will be healthy, your brain will work, you will feel peace, joy. बाद में सब. So if you tell somebody तुमको घिसना पड़ेगा, अरे नहीं हम नहीं कर सकते. So in the desire to get people to begin, I think there's a lot of dilution. But rigor in practice and respect for lineage, it depends on how your lineage transmits, no? See, we have taken classical dance and classical music. Just that one individual takes it and entire schools open up in other countries. The Guru Shishya Parampara, that whole system is so brilliant that just one individual can go and start up and there's a whole lineage of. Now in the West they have started a new thing called post-lineage yoga because they don't want to acknowledge Parampara. They are very offended that yoga originated in Hinduism. They are doing their level best to break that. They don't like that Hatha Yoga is Hindu. उनको बुरा लगता है वो. और so कुछ भी करके, I call it Paschima Murkhasana Pantha, Western dumbass posture. So, if the teacher is authentic, how will there not be rigor in practice and respect for tradition? If the teacher is dhila, or the teacher is afraid that my disciples will go away and then I will lose income or I will lose respect or something like that, then all those things begin. Like Sampradaya and Parampara are very important, and how they are communicated, how they are transmitted are vital. And I think we don't ask enough from our people. We are like, अरे होगा नहीं उससे, ठीक है रहने दो. Let's give them something easier to do. And I'm like, people might surprise you if you give them something really difficult to do and say this is the discipline required. They might surprise you. Maybe 10 of them will fall away, but the 11th person might turn out to be somebody spectacular. But I think many people would prefer to have 10 mediocre people than one spectacular person. This is going to get me into a lot of trouble with a lot of people. But I don't see how, if the teacher is authentic, the rigor for tradition and rigor for will not be there. I don't see how that is possible.
So this also comes from a lot of people when they say that there is, modern gurus, especially the popular ones, they have huge fan followings, and they have like
Millions
devotees,
of people.
yeah. And there is that intimate contact which is missing, right? Which is supposed to be the.
वो गुरु का दोष कैसे हो गया? Did he come personally to your house and say, "Be my disciple"? You know that he has 2 million other people vying for his attention. Who told you to go there? Oh dear, it's on me. It's it's not on him. Who told you to go there? There are hundreds of people, worthwhile, valuable people. उनके पास जाओ ना. नहीं, you want to be, my guru is rich and famous and he has 375 centers all over the world and I am part of that, and then you say I don't have access to him. तो तुम्हारा क्या choice है? Were you brainwashed into becoming part of that? See, this evasion of personal responsibility really gets my goat, you know. And we are the world champions at it. I mean, Olympics में सारे medal जीत जाएंगे और कोई contest भी नहीं करेगा उसमें. That finding something external from ourselves to blame, we are like, I don't think there's anybody who's so skillful like we are. You know. Who tells you to go to all these people? कोई बोलता है क्या? जबरदस्ती करता है क्या कोई? डंडा मार के आपको अंदर ले लेते हैं क्या? Again, are you like a automation or you just hear? Now I know, you know, they use very slick marketing tools. Fine, ठीक है, you fell for it. Once you realize कि मेरे को कभी नहीं मिलने वाला है chance, मेरे को कभी नहीं access मिलेगा, आप रहते क्यों हैं? I'll tell you why. Because you want to be part of that large organization. Now, if you want to be a herd, you be a herd. Don't complain then. कि मेरा मैं नहीं सुन रहा है कोई. There is a reason why goats and sheep are large numbers and lion prides are small. Character की बात है, personality की बात है. Again, you know, there's the other problem of physical accessibility. You don't need physical accessibility. If you have a guru figure and he's a real guru, you don't need to meet the person every day and sit 6 hours with the person. This part people don't understand. So the worst kind of politics happen in ashrams. Over what? Who gets to stand by the stage? Who gets to hold the umbrella? Who gets to open the car door? These are issues. दुनिया की मोह माया को त्याग के हम मुक्ति पाने के लिए आए हैं और अम्ब्रेला के ऊपर झगड़ा. Now, of course, you will say, why does the guru not put an end to it? 2 million people or 6 million or whatever the number is. Okay, you can blame the structure of it. But I'm saying you walked into it, no? You walked into it. And I'm not using this as an advertisement for myself. I'm very happy with the people who have. Most of the people who approach me, मैं भगाता हूँ उनको. But I'm accessible. I am there. I answer my people if they are write to me. Maybe not immediately. People want instant response. कैसे हो सकता है? And I'm not the only one. There are so many people. कितने लोग हैं? माहिर लोग. उनके पास जाओ. फिर बोस्ट कैसे करोगे कि मैं. Life is full of trade-offs, you know.
So, I mean, so this comes to your earlier statement, which says that, you know, you are chosen as opposed to you choose the guru, isn't it? I mean, how do we reconcile these two?
I said the devta chooses you. I didn't
Right.
say that the
But
guru
even,
chooses
I mean, I think even as far as the guru is concerned,
no
how
guru,
would-
any guru who says, why don't you become my disciple, run from that person, you know. That's not the parampara, that's not how it is done in our culture. Always you have to go and say. जब भी आपको enticement मिलता है कि बन जाओ, वो थोड़ा dangerous है. उनको कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. The divine chooses, that is when you have a certain destiny. When you have a certain destiny to grow in that one lifetime, you have a certain destiny to grow spiritually. Then whether you like it or not, नाक रगड़वा के आपको वहीं उसी पे डाल के आगे बढ़ो. Even I was like an agnostic fellow basically. You know, I've said this before I don't mind saying it again, at age 30, if somebody told me at age 50 I would be a guru with disciples, I would burst my stomach laughing. But once you are caught, then there's nothing you can do about it. आप जितना भी रिबेल करोगे आपको वापस वैसे no, this path, no other path, this path, this path, this path. Then you begin to understand, okay, the universe is trying to tell me something. I'm not getting it. Then you say, okay, it's better to cooperate with that.
So you're saying that's more of an exception rather than rule.
See, the usual rule in yoga is if you want to get anywhere significant and attain something, it takes 13 years of sadhana. The minute you say that, 90% of the people leave. And I'm like, why are you leaving? 13 साल तो वैसे भी बीतेगा ना, 13 साल साधना तो करके देखो. The 13 years will pass anyways, no? And what is the guarantee that tomorrow you will be alive? You might as well get that samskara into your system, so that next lifetime you have a better chance. And then out of the 10 who remain, about 5 are cracks. They are excitable people. So it's very rare to get somebody who is really good at sadhana. It's very rare to find somebody with a natural talent for sadhana or a natural desire. Yes, a lot of what we call inabilities can be overcome with perseverance. You just stick to it and stick to it. If it is a good process, it does transform you. But people are used to Maggi noodles, so after that everything is, they want instant results, and instant results don't happen. In yoga especially, they don't happen. And most of the work happens internally. Most of the work happens out of the conscious side. And the minute you say that you're doing some kind of spiritual process, then your family and your friend circle start torturing you. Arey, you have been doing yoga, you are so angry still, you are so this, you are so that. Now you have a new set of expectations to live up to. Then people are like, I can't deal with this much holiness all the time, Yeah? डायबिटीज हो जाता है, अगर शक्कर ही खाते रहोगे तो डायबिटीज हो जाता है ना. But that's the expectation, diabetic personality, like sweet all the time. Mistrust the people who are sweet all the time. Mistrust the people who are charming all the time. They're not authentic. वो एक साइड ही आपको दिखा रहे हैं और एक दिन आपको प्रॉब्लम दिखेगा. अब I have an advantage because मेरा reputation इतना खराब है कि just by acting normal I get. Yesterday Rahul was bringing me and he's like, you're very different from your Facebook personality. You're very soft-spoken and polite. Because something went on in the airport, he didn't know. He told me, go and stand one place. So I went and stood over there. Then I was told, नहीं अभी shift हो गया, वो pickup point अलग है, तो मेरे को आधा किलोमीटर चल के आना पड़ा. He must have probably thought I'm going to get mad or something. He didn't know, I didn't know. मैंने बोला, I don't know anything about Delhi. He said, go stand there. I went and stood there. Then he calls me and says, नहीं गलत जगह, आप यहाँ आके, मैं वहाँ जाके. So apparently that was the thing for me to go into Narasimha mode or something. So when that didn't happen, he was very surprised, So see, and I became like a good person, by previously being a bad person, now I'm a good person. तो जितने भी idiosyncrasies and crankiness है early on develop करो, बाद में कोई नहीं बोलेगा कि senile हो रहे हैं, बोलेंगे कि हमेशा वैसे ही था.
So this is I think this will be the final question from the list.
Okay.
If we have time, we'll go to the audience. So this one is about gardens and the sacred spaces. So is there not an element? This comes from Kiran, and it says, is there not an element of sacred in a garden? And is it not a dharmic duty to create gardens for every temple that we build? And which is something that we've lost along the way. And I remember a very powerful post that you wrote about forests and how we try to replicate those.
This is like a completely halal certified question here. It's like a, because paradise is a garden.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, paradise is a garden. So we never wanted gardens. You see, there's a difference between a garden and a jungle. We always wanted jungles. Vana. The vana is the jungle is a chaos, but it's a brilliantly functioning chaos. Whereas a garden looks controlled, but all the time you're fighting nature.
Yeah.
In a garden you're fighting nature. Whatever else Hindus do today is different, but fundamentally in our culture we don't fight nature. We are with nature. So if you say, is it not a responsibility to create vanas, I would agree. If you're saying, is it not a responsibility to create gardens, I'm like, no, not really. Maybe for all the young couples, they need some place to go and neck, all right. Maybe for them. And police ko bahut acha lagega because hafta le sakte hain na, so maybe that would be. But I think the centrality of the forest in our culture was always very important. And we all know now that we need more forests, we need more trees and those kind of things. Because the forest is a place that is alive beyond anybody conception. And I made a post on this in Facebook where as our forest began to shrink, we started to recreate the energy of the forest in our temples. People can look it up. It's one of my better posts. But no, I don't believe in gardens, but I do believe in forests. And in the time of the Mauryas, they even had abhayavanas, where you could not kill any animal. Forests without fear. They would just keep it. No, you can't cut the tree down. You can't kill the animal. It was just it was official government policy. We're talking 2,000 years back. Today you can. 1973, hunting was banned. It's not really a ban that is enforced, but okay, at least we are trying that. Yeah, so no, I'm not in favor of gardens per se.
So I mean, the larger question is, of course, the ecological crisis that we are in, and how that is a.
The ecological crisis is again because we have too many people. Now we cannot go around culling human beings. Randomly kill every fourth person. We can't do that. So as a society, we have to come to some understanding that this is impossible. We cannot keep reproducing in this manner. I don't see any desire on the part of anybody to even begin the conversation. In my more cynical moods, I say, thank God I'm middle-aged, because मेरे को तो देखना नहीं पड़ेगा ना जब पूरा collapse हो जाएगा. ऐसे जाओगे तो collapse होगा ही होगा. So yes, environment, but no matter how many trees you plant, 125 crores human beings. It's more, yeah. 133. This country cannot provide for that many people. That's at least 5 times more than what we can reasonably deal with. So yes, of course, environment karna chahiye, ye karna chahiye, new ways of non-polluting power, all those are part of the solution. But the major issue, you're not going to put your finger on it, you're not going to say anything about it because people will not agree to it and that's a vote loser. Then all right, you've kicked the problem down the road, that's it. You essentially kick the can down the road and saying ki, Simpsons mein ek tha, this is a problem for future Homer. Man, I don't envy that guy. I don't envy our children. And we are not looking at it. What are we leaving to our children? हम किस प्रकार के polluted, poisoned planet, we are just saying, all right, here, kiddies, enjoy. We ruined it. Now, you guys, sorry, इन सब चीज़ों में अगर लोगों को एक्साइटमेंट होता है लेकिन आईपीएल है ना तो फिर सेफली इट कैन लीच ऑफ ऑल योर एनर्जी, all your excitement. You can make a bunch of dadials into millionaires, you know. तुमको क्या मिलता है, लेकिन फिर चीखो चिल्लाओ, बेस्ट है. सृजन फाउंडेशन का वीडियो देखने के बजाय the Srijan Foundation video playlist is one of the greatest educational resources India currently has. How many have seen all the videos? One or two hands. How many IPL matches have you missed? Wo on the spot you can.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a very interesting point. And
Yeah.
I mean, before we go to the questions,
Yeah.
So I'll extract my pound of flesh and
Yeah, please.
ask my question maybe. So, I mean, when we talk about these things, I mean, you've barely even touched upon the huge universe of concepts and ideas that we inherit. Now, the the battle really. I mean, if you talk about the civilizational battle, it's not even a battle of ideas.
No.
It's basically a battle of intelligence versus, you know, a lack of it. So it's in the current circumstances, it's like saying that, you know, if you want to be a Hindu, you have to take on a heavier cognitive load and understand, make efforts to understand these things. But the other side is very easy, right? I mean, it's just आप ये मान लो और चलते बनो. So how do we deal with that fact?
हम मान सकते हैं क्या इतना आसानी से? Such simplistic things can we just say, okay, fine, this will do.
हो रहा है ना, मतलब लोग तो मान रहे हैं.
लोग इसलिए मानते हैं क्योंकि हमारे साइड से they don't see any valuable role models. Why should you be a Hindu? You know, this is the core issue. Do you know anybody you respect because he is an exemplar of Hinduness? It will always be some professional thing. Do you respect somebody because of the knowledge that they have, or because of the dharmic way they live, or just because of the yogic manner in which they live? बोल देंगे और फिर शॉपिंग मॉल में कोई क्रिकेटर आएगा और कोई फिल्म स्टार आएगा, बस उसके पीछे. The point I'm making is, if you're saying, don't we have an easier solution? No, we don't have an easier solution, and we should not have an easier solution. अपना लोड उठाने में इतना प्रॉब्लम क्या है? We are talking about survival. We are now engaged in a struggle for literal civilizational and cultural survival. People like us are fortunate. We've all had English education, we've all had a reasonable life, whatever. हम लोग एग्जाम्पल सेट नहीं करेंगे तो जो गांव वाला है, you expect him to do the fight for you? Yesterday I came in the plane and I was the only person in a kurta in the entire flight. Neither male nor female was wearing Indian clothes. Nothing big, but it says something about the values that are prevalent amongst those who can afford to travel by plane. तो हम लोगों से एग्जाम्पल नहीं होगा तो किन से होने वाला है? You know, to say that the other side has more plausible arguments, I don't believe it. Do we argue at all? Do we argue? The other side's arguments can be torn apart pretty easily. But we are told, the first thing that we are injected is that all are the same. Yes? Sarva Dharma Sama Bhava, or as I like to call it, Sarva Dharma Gobar Bhava. Or Vasudhaiva Stupiditam, all these things, you know, like. The point is, you are asking me, can we find a way to escape our responsibility? And I am saying no. हम सबको वो वजन उठाना पड़ेगा, हम सबको घिसना पड़ेगा. We have to become the examples. Let me, not to this thing Srijan Foundation or Rahul in any way, but I didn't know who he was. Why did I come? I came because Ashish asked me to come. Now I know who Srijan Foundation is and everything, but the fact is, because he has a certain credibility, because he's done certain work, because I know him and I value him, then I said, okay, if he's saying this is something worthwhile to do, are you that kind of person? I'm asking very simply, आपके word में वजन है क्या? या my friend Rajshri sitting over there, अगर वो भी कुछ बोल दिया तो मैं बोलूँगा हाँ, क्योंकि उसके word में वजन है. My word also has वजन, it also creates lot of heartburn in many cases, but वो अलग बात है, वजन तो है. Now, what do you do to make yourself a person who becomes weighty, of consequence? And you know, the tendency is in India is like, no, आप तो परम ज्ञानी हैं, आप तो unusual person है. नहीं बाबा, we are all very, very ordinary people, but हमने घिसा है. And I am saying, do you have a desire to become in some ways responsible and influential in life? Do you have a desire to in some way be a person कि आप मुंह खोल के बोलोगे तो 10 लोग बोलेंगे ऐसे नहीं बोलता है, there must be some reason behind, it's something valuable, this person we know, this person we trust. And I am saying become that person. Become that person of consequence. Everybody is not going to become world famous. Everybody is not going to become millionaire, celebrity and those kind of things. And you know, this respect that we give for film stars, I've always wondered about it. Like 100 crore ka movie. 100 crore ka movie kya hota hai? 133 crore people at 100 rupees a multiplex ticket, that's just less than 1% of the population. Okay, theek hai, 50 rupiya pakdo. It comes up to about 2. So they are operating in a space that impacts less than 1% of the population, and हम उसको चढ़ा के सर पे बिठाते हैं जैसे they are some kind of important people. And most film stars are stupid people who just know how to mug up something and then look good reciting it back on camera, you know? And we give them importance. See, this is very unpleasant. Whenever I ask people this question, what are you doing with your life to become a person of consequence? They are like, लेकिन हम तो ordinary हैं. And I'm like, हम भी ordinary हैं. There is nothing. What are you good at? In the old days, it used to be that he's a person of good character. You know, people used to value that this person in the neighborhood, in the ilaka, is known as a person of character. He's a sterling person. And people would listen to that person. People would ask yourself, am I known as a person of character? And you know, I don't mean, as we say in Bengal, luj character. If you are not a person of consequence, you should ask yourself, why not? Okay, some of you are very young, some of you are still learning, but once you are past 35, 40, it should worry you. Why am I not a person of consequence? अब हर किसी में उतना दिमाग तो नहीं है, हर किसी में उतना हुनर तो नहीं है. I am always shameless, so I have no problem speaking in front of public. People are paralyzed at the thought of speaking in public. All those things have to be taken into account. But I am only asking a simple thing. What is the value you bring? And the minute people see the value you bring, they'll line up behind you. मैं कौन हूँ? I am a Mallu fellow who grew up in Calcutta and now living in Bombay. It's because I bring certain value that they've called me here. No? I don't come from any background or anything. कुछ नहीं है. I'm one of the downstarts in life, you know. But I made myself, in a small way, I made myself valuable. I made myself influential. Ashish also. He is doing. Rahul is doing. Everybody can contribute. Everybody can become in some way impactful. And I am saying, first we should challenge ourselves, because दूसरों को ज्ञान देना तो बहुत आसान है. First we should challenge ourselves. What have I done to become a person of consequence? What have I done to become? And I don't mean famous, and I don't mean rich. These are the two things that people confuse. If I'm rich and famous, then when you are rich, you are handsome, you are charming, and you even sing well. I don't mean that. So it's not an easy answer, but I don't want us to have easy answers. We have had too many easy answers. मैं नहीं चाहता हूं कि हमारे पास आसान सा जवाब हो. कठोर सवाल पूछो अपने आप, और अपने आप be hard on yourself, man. Later on it proves very valuable.
I think this goes back to the point that you made earlier about this fascination with sattva, with the exclusion of other gunas. I mean, I think I read Sri Ramakrishna stating this, that we need to be more rajasic.
Yes.
We need to come out of that. I mean,
स्वामी विवेकानंद को एक बार किसी फॉरेनर ने बोला था कि इंडिया में वायलेंस ही नहीं होता है, कितना अच्छा है. एंड ही लाइक वुड टू गॉड इट वाज अदरवाइज, बिकॉज ये तो अधमरे है उसीलिए सो आई थिंक नाउ ही विल बी हैप्पी. उतना अधमरा नहीं है, 3/4 मरा ही है. No, you see, even gold, pure gold evaporates. Do you know that? If it's 100% pure gold, वो कपूर की तरह है, वो evaporate होता है. You need to mix little brass into it, नहीं तो वो शेप रिटेन नहीं करता है. तो हम तो एकदम 100% प्योर गोल्ड बन के एग्जिस्टेंस ही चला जा रहा है. We are evaporating out of existence. I'm like, get some grit into you, get some dirt into you.
At a fundamental level, there is a confusion between tamas and sattva. I mean, people tend to look at tamas, the inertia, as some sort of a state of samadhi.
Well, I suppose if a person is just sitting quietly, he's not a danger to you, so you can respect him easily. Whereas you come to a person like me, and many of your self images will not go back in one piece. So there is a problem there.
Okay, so we take the first question from the audience here. What is the best way to know that you are progressing in your sadhana? And why my fear overpowers my natural state of meditation? This is something that happens seldom, but what is the best way to overcome
this
that?
is a sadhana question. If the person is already in sadhana, they should ask their guru, or they should ask their. But I'll tell you, the fear comes because now you have to sit and look at yourself. When you're sitting in meditation, you have to sit and look at yourself. And trust me, most of the time what you find is not very pleasant. Most of the time people are doing things, watching movies, partying, alcoholing, those kind of things, because it's a way to avoid facing themselves. So the fear should pass if it is an authentic practice. The other part, I should not say that. I mean, what are the signs of progress? It depends on what you're doing. But yeah, I suppose a greater calm. In the beginning, you don't get more calm, you actually become more jittery, you become more fiery. Again, nobody wants to say this because, then, as it is, my family has so much trouble with this, and then I'll get even more jittery. Yeah, because when you're doing any proper yogic process, aapko nonsense ka tolerance goes down. And if you think your family does not have nonsense or you don't have nonsense, बहुत आत्मविचार का जरूरत है. So वो early days है, but you see पहले क्या था? If a person had a jagran, they knew what to do. Get this person to the temple, get this person to the guru, change the diet. It was all part of the organic knowledge. Today, if somebody has a jagran, they take you and drug you. Because so there are certain, and previously क्या था that कुछ भी हो, after all परिवार वाला है, बर्दाश्त करना पड़ेगा. This is who we are stuck with. Today is like divorce, or get out of the house. So there's a whole, that security of this is where we are and we are not going anywhere. It allowed a lot of things to settle down in time. Whereas today, the minute it lasts for more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we're like, we cannot take this anymore. So there's a lot of greater intolerance of changed behavior. It's an accusation. You have changed so much. हर किसी ने तो सुना ही होगा. नहीं सुना है. Life बेकार जा रहा है. You must hear that in life, in an accusatory tone, somebody wagging finger. Then you're moving somewhere. Then you're moving somewhere. आप तो इतना बदल गए हैं. You should say, thank you, I worked very hard.
So, during sadhana, sometimes it is the Devi that dominates the mind. Then, for apparent reason, it is Shiva and Vishnu. Why does that happen? And does it have to do with our life circumstances? Or does it have to do with different tattvas and gunas?
Both, actually. See, normally if you stick with it, then one form starts predominating. Pehle, because we live in this, especially today when it's all on TV and, so the multiplicity of form is always there. So in the beginning, it kind of, depending on your vasana samskara and what you've done in the past, you might tend to go here, you might tend to go there. But if you persist in your sadhana, then ek form mein coalesce ho jata hai. It comes into one and that stabilizes. Again, this is something very core to me that I'm saying. Why are you doing all these processes without a guru, and why are you not asking him or her? And why are you asking me? Maybe they are doing on their own and they're confused or whatever. But ऐसी चीजों में खुद मत पढ़ो without somebody to mentor you and guide you. You must have, even if not a proper guru, somebody to. I find it quite थोड़ा मेरे को disturbing लगता है that such a deep level question has to be asked in a public forum. It should not be. That should not be how it is done. That should not be how it is done. But again, like I say, we are barely hanging on to our culture with a thread. 2 more generations and it's gone. You think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. I'm being deadly serious. We have 2 generations to fix matters.
Now, this is again a very fundamental question, and I don't know if this is the right forum, but I'll still put it up. Please, may you tell us something about the rishis from a Jungian perspective.
Oh dear.
And how can we channelize Rishi Shakti into our very being in order to resuscitate our culture back as a living force?
No, I don't want to get into that because it will be the rishis, the power and the guidance of the rishis are always there. Dhang ka sadhana karo, mil jayega. That's the short answer. Now, rishis from a Jungian and all that, it's too complex. I can't get into that. It's unfair question. But rishis, what they have done, the books are there, the texts are there, and in the Akasha or in the Akasha, whatever you need, do enough sadhana, you can access. Rishi's help is always there. But ek baat hai, I must put that caveat there. तुम किस खेत के मूली हो that a rishi will take personal interest in you? Why do you assume it may be so? But do you know the magnitude of a rishi? Do you know how? I remember once sitting with a person and one of his foreign disciples asked, why can't we access Himalayan masters? And he said, I shouldn't be answering this, but I'll answer. He said, do you know when Himalayan masters start taking interest in people in the plains? That when you're doing 10 hours of sadhana a day, then they look and they say, oh look, somebody is trying to do yoga, we should help. So he was like, to get the attention of a rishi, you should already be at a certain stature. So all these fantasies of I will get Vishwamitra and Durvasa and Agastya through me and I will fix the country was a megalomania. You know, I mean, get an ordinary run-of-the-mill rishi chalega, Baba. You know, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's hugely improbable. It's one thing I hear all the time. Arey, the days of Ramana are over. And I'm like, you really think you are good enough to be Ramana Maharishi's disciple? You really think that about yourself? That's your self-judgment about yourself. If you were, you would have been born there. Ab tum yahan ho, Baba, we are the option you have. Your infallible karma is what you hear.
So this one is, are there any major Indic martial arts practices left apart from Kalaripayattu? Especially those that focus on the internal prana, chi.
Tamil
something
Nadu
like-
has Marma. They have Marma Vidya, which is like just strikes, not so. I think the Manipur and all have some one or two. The Chow dance of Orissa was quite like that, but no, I don't think other than Kalari and Marma. Marma is still there. Sri Lanka has a variation, which seems to be just like Kalari, but they call it something else. And anyways, as always, the Goras have discovered it. They have started writing books on it. 20 साल के अंदर वो बोलेंगे कि कोई बाहर से आके इंडियंस को सिखाया. I am making a prediction right now. Within 20 years, there will be a book saying some Greek taught Kalari to the Goras have discovered it, and that's the end. You know, like if we don't see, it's very difficult. You have to start really early, or you have to be really well trained as a martial artist. Then they'll accept you as an adult. नहीं तो 2 साल सिर्फ आपको मसाज करते हैं तेल से. So it's a problem to teach Kalari. And you know that organic growth from the soil is no longer there, no? But yeah, I don't know what to say about it because it depresses the hell out of me. The fact that Kalari has become like this. It really depresses me. And not just Kalari, there are so many. I think Punjab mein there is a Shastar Vidya kuch bolke, there is one. Huh? No, Shastar Vidya bolke ek hai jo the Akali types, certain Sikh sects practice it. Huh? The Nihangs, they practice it. So, बहुत fragmentary and very limited तरीके से, the way the Chinese and the Japanese revived or the Koreans revived it, we haven't managed to revive it. Mainly because I think we never had a charismatic teacher. You know, whether we like it or not, celebrity counts.
Now, but they teach something with Latin.
वो हमेशा पे हैं. It's not like they are all totally gone, but you know, in the age of firepower, all these things become an issue. But no, I don't think so. And anyways, that's, I mean, as a yogi, what does it matter, Kalari? But still, it's an interesting question.
So this is the last question.
All
How
right.
do we inculcate traditions in our children, considering the current system? I don't know whether word, the system, and constantly moving from place to place for career.
घर में भगवान का मंदिर है क्या? पूजा होती है क्या? Do they see you doing some kind of sadhana? Do you buy at least Amar Chitra Katha for them? When you move from place to place, occasionally does that place include an old temple? Or is it only European holiday? It comes down to the core question that we began. How do we define? What do we tell our children? Just what I asked my friend, you know, like, बच्चों को क्या बोलते हो? Do they see you practicing being a Hindu? If they don't, you know, don't outsource it to your children, you know, like now it's your responsibility to save the culture, you know. हमसे तो नहीं होता है, अब तुम्हारी बारी है, तुम करो अभी. जो हो भी जाएगा, आई एम नॉट सेइंग इट वोंट हैपन. आई हैव अ लॉट ऑफ फेथ इन द यंगर जनरेशन, mostly because it's not possible to keep faith in my generation. You know? So it's more an act of despairing hope rather than anything else. I don't know what to say. But yeah, simple. Again, it comes down to that other question I said. No, are you a person of consequence? If they see you apologizing, and when you do puja part, and that. Do you celebrate festivals? Do you make a big deal about celebrating festivals? Do you try to learn about the festivals and explain to your children? When you do puja part, children don't really mind being taken to temples and all that. You have to know how to manage a child, how to manage his bladder. You need to know those things. That's part of being a competent parent. But करते नहीं है ना. McDonald's में birthday party के लिए everybody knows how to do it. What do you do to transmit? See, like I said, it was organic. You go to small towns in Tamil Nadu, entire families come and sit in the temple in the evening. They're not gossiping, they're not talking, they just know that to come and sit in temple is important, it's valuable. फिर वो बच्चे खेलते हैं, फिर वो थोड़ा प्रदक्षिणा करेंगे, and the child will point and ask, and then they will say that is Dakshinamurti, and somebody will do a chant. It's still organic there, but they are being taught this is all superstition and backward. And now we have to find a way. How do we communicate? I'm actually meeting people today who don't know who Abhimanyu is. I would have never thought that possible, but I'm actually meeting people today jisko Abhimanyu malum nahi hai. Who's that? I'm like, very little chance he was your ancestor, but maybe. Now, when you are so divorced from your culture, first of all, you have to educate yourself, and then you have to educate your children. And in educating your children, you will maybe learn something, which is usually the case, no? अरे हमारे बच्चे बोर हो जाते हैं, नहीं होते हैं बोर. You are just eluding the situation. But yeah, I mean, with all the social media and the avenues for distraction are so vast, that becomes a problem. But again, it comes down to being an example. If they see you value these things, then they will also value, because small children especially love to imitate parents. जो parents करते हैं उनको भी करना है. So you got to get them early. No point starting at 13 and 14. That time they think you are the biggest duffer in the world. उनको तो कोई interest ही नहीं है आप में. Then when they are 24, 25, the brain becomes okay, and they're like, okay, my parents are not so stupid after all. But वो 10 साल, because of the hormonal flush, they will reject you, and they are learning their own self-actualizing, or they are learning their own sense of independent self by moving away from you. That's normal. वो कोई बात. That's the wrong time to catch them. A lot of parents say too small, won't understand. I'm like, no, put it in now. जब आप दिया जलाओगे, chanting करते हो, बच्चे को भी लाओ. But is that not indoctrination? हाँ, करो. Teach children, pick up chants and slokas just like that, but you must know them, no? आपको मालूम नहीं है तो वो कहाँ से? I'm afraid I don't have easy answers. I keep bringing it back to the individual, कि तुम्हारा responsibility है. क्या करें? We didn't ask to be born in such a terrible time, but it is a terrible time, and unless we all individually and unitedly stand up against it, कुछ बचने वाला नहीं. Done? All right.
Thank you so much.
Sarvam.